the station that's on your side. This is News 12, first at 4.
2 people are dead after a jet crashed near the Thompson-McDuffie County Airport this morning. This is a look at where the crash happened. It was just off of Wrightsboro Road by the Thompson-McDuffie County Airport. The investigation is just getting started. Celeste Springer is live for us out there. Celeste, what do you know so far?
Well, only just a few hours ago, they moved this roadblock back so we can see this crash site for ourselves with our own 2 eyes. And all of that is scary news, especially in this neighborhood where I talked to this one neighbor over here, and they're really only just about a football field away from that crash site. Both them and the coroner tell me, though, this crash was not a fiery one. We now know this plane is a Dassault Falcon business jet, which left from Lubbock, Texas this morning. The FAA tells us the crash happened sometime around 5:44 a.m. We're still waiting to hear back on the names of the 2 crash victims. The coroner tells us that they're still trying to find their family members. Sheriff's deputies will guard this crash site until federal investigators can get here. A neighbor who lives, like I said, about a football field away from the crash tells us he can usually hear low-flying planes pass by, but this morning he didn't even hear the crash.
We didn't hear it, and they thought it was just a roll of thunder. So there was no fire, no tremendously loud noise. The dogs barked, but that's all.
And this is not the only plane crash that's happened in our area. More specifically, by this airport over here. Back in 2013, there was another plane crash here that killed 5 people from Vane Guy's business. The plane was coming from Nashville and trying to land. The plane did not go slow enough in time, and the pilot ended up hitting a utility pole. And right now, NTSB tells us they're traveling here to do their investigations. We'll keep you updated on what they find out.
Thanks so much, Celeste, for following that story for us for sure. And not only are we keeping track on this plane crash for you guys, but also of the storms moving into our area. First Alert Chief Meteorologist Riley Hale.
From the station that's on your side, breaking news.
Breaking news this afternoon, we are learning the names of 2 people killed in a small jet crash this morning. That jet came down in a field just seconds away from the airport where it was set to land. And just in the past 2 hours, we are learning those 2 people are 73-year-old Raymond Bachman from Arizona and 63-year-old Claude Duchesne from Texas.
Now, this happened along Wrightsboro Road in Thompson. The jet crashing in a field, which you can see is not far from the Thompson-McDuffie County Airport at all.
Right. Our Celeste Springer live there now. She's been there all day for us. And an investigator is still on the scene as well, Celeste.
Yeah, we just learned that an investigator got here, but just in the past couple hours, they did move this barrier back so we can finally see that crash site for ourselves. And it was scary news for this neighborhood over here. I talked to this neighbor at this house over here, where they really only live about a football field distance away from the scene of the crash. And both them, as well as the coroner, tell us this crash was not a fiery one. We know the plane was a Dassault Falcon business jet, which left from Lubbock, Texas this morning. The FAA tells us the crash happened sometime around 5:44 a.m. And according to the FAA registry, both of those deceased men had their pilot's licenses, and both have had them since 2017. A neighbor who lives nearby the crash tells us he usually can hear low-flying planes pass by, but this morning he didn't even hear the crash.
Scary if it happened to crash that was headed for this tree up here. If it was that low, we've had one bad plane crash already from this airport, and of course this is the second big one.
And this is not the only plane crash that we've had in this area. You might remember back in 2013, a plane crash over by Vane Guys that killed 5 people. That plane was coming from Nashville and was believed to have ended up hitting a utility pole. And as we said before, we've just learned an investigator is on scene here right now. I've learned that they plan on possibly holding a press briefing this evening, and we will keep you updated on all those details.
All right, thanks, Celeste. Learning new details at all the turns this today, and of course we'll hoping to hear more later tonight. That crash, as Celeste mentioned, is not the first near that same airport. This is the crash she was talking about, the one in 2013 when a small passenger jet touched down at the airport but did not slow down enough. The pilot started a go around the airport but hit a utility pole 63 feet above ground. All 5 passengers who died worked for the Vane guys. They were returning home after a shift from their clinic in Nashville. Both the pilot and co-pilot were seriously injured, but they survived.
Much more news ahead after we give you a live 45 this morning. Not very far at all, just seconds away from the Thompson-McDuffie County Airport.
And during that news conference, the NTSB told us this was a cargo plane and there were not any distress calls that they're aware of. Part of Wrightsboro Road is still shut down even now as crews are out there surveying the scene, but we do know 2 people died in that crash.
The coroner just releasing those names in the last couple of hours. They are 73-year-old Raymond Bachman from Arizona, 63-year-old Claude Duchesne from El Paso, Texas.
Deputies found the plane wreckage just after 7 this morning on Wrightsboro Road, just west of the airport, just a mile short of the runway. News 12 Celeste Springer just finished speaking with the NTSB. She's been out there all day long following this. So in addition to no distress calls, what else did they have to say about this accident, Celeste? Well, we learned a lot from that press briefing. We're just over here talking to those investigators about what they know so far. They tell me that right now they're collecting evidence at that scene. They're going to collect all that. It's going to go to Griffin, Georgia to be examined. They also say that their investigation is going to look pretty standard. They're going to look into what the weather conditions were like. They're going to look into when the plane was supposed to arrive, as well as when it crashed, and any other things that could lead to some technical difficulties. They also told me that there's one key important piece of evidence that they have right now, which is a voice recorder that stays in the cockpit. They're waiting to see if the files on there are something that they can access, and they might find answers as to what happened here.
It's going to be an essential piece of evidence for us to look at what were those conversations transpiring throughout not only just the final few minutes of flight, but hopefully 30 minutes prior to the accident or more.
And they're still trying to work to identify what exactly sent this plane into this field, but I want to show you guys something real quick. So that's the plane. You can see a little bit of that rubble down there, but just walk a little bit through this way. Through these trees right there, you can see the runway. So the the plane missed it by just that much and came so close. This rubble was once a Dassault Falcon 20 jet, but through the chaos of a crash next door, neighbors who slept through it all
Wanted to know if we'd heard anything. We didn't hear it, and they thought it was just a roll of thunder. So there was no fire, no tremendously loud noise. The dogs barked, but that's all.
Sammy McCorkle is just a short ride away from the crash site.
It just missed their house by less than 50, 60 yards.
And while this crash ended here, the plane began many trips these past few days. According to FlightAware, many were back and forth from Texas. Today's flight was coming from Lubbock.
We've had one bad plane crash already from this airport, and of course this is the second big one.
This brings back memories of another crash, one in 2013, one where a plane hit a utility pole, and one where 5 people died.
We have always had some concerns since they've made some expansions and actually condemned some of our land was very low, so you never know.
But here his house still stands, located right in the middle of an aerial highway. And NTSB tells me that they'll probably be releasing preliminary information in about 10 days, but the full investigation could take 1.5 to 2 years. But for now, right here, this road is going to remain closed, and they say it'll take a couple days to get all of the parts of that plane out.
Celeste Springer live there at the scene for us in Thompson-McDuffie County. Of course, there are questions about our weather. We did see some rain this morning, but did that have anything to do with it?
And Riley, you say there were some showers west of us, some
sunset. Out and about around town, temps are close to 80 degrees at the moment, and once we get past sunset, it looks like those rain chances will be low into the overnight. Have a look at that wet pattern over the next few days, just about 10 minutes.
This whole oh, you kidding me? I have to live it, Charles. Of course you do too.
Racist allegations this evening against the city of Swainsboro's mayor after comments made in a Zoom meeting just like the one you just heard.
3 black city council members are now filing a lawsuit accusing the mayor and city of illegally shutting down meetings to keep them from voting.
Sloan Cohen live in our studio to walk us through what led up to that lawsuit.
Everything started during their August 24th city council meeting. They were trying to vote on what to do with ARP funds, their budget, and a few other things. The mayor abruptly ends the meeting saying there aren't enough members to vote, but what he doesn't realize is he never ended the Zoom. So everyone on the call can hear the mayor of Swainsboro, city administrator, and 2 city council members complaining about the direction their city council meeting was heading.
This whole oh, you kidding me? I have to live it, Charles. Of course you do too.
This whole thing, a vote to pass the 2022 Swainsboro budget, whether to pay city workers $2 more for COVID pay, and a few other topics. They have until the end of the month to apply for over $2 million in federal COVID funds.
I'm thinking at this time, we do not have a quorum.
Sir, we have a quorum. It's only 5 members of council.
You have 5 members, you have 6 members.
No, we have 5.
There are 5 members on the Swainsboro City Council. Councilmembers Sconyers and Stafford left the meeting.
Please, listen to Parker, and he's already got everything planned he and Rita planned everything out.
The lawsuit says their reason to not come back on was done without substantial justification, but for the mayor, it was enough. So he ended the meeting, or so they thought.
This pisses me off tremendously.
Mr. Lawson, we still can hear you.
But Mr. Lawson and Mayor Schwab could not hear them.
You know what, Charles? You go to the house and tell them to all kiss your you pull it out of the race and give it to it, and I'll give you my resignation tomorrow. And tell all of them to kiss and go home.
The mayor says he can't resign because of his commitment to the people. I spoke to 2 of the 3 council members who filed suit, and they say they could not believe the things that the mayor and administrator said, especially in 2021. Ultimately, they just want to be able to vote. Councilman Sconners and says the situation should never have happened, and he has no remarks. I did not hear back from the mayor or administrator yet.
We will eagerly be awaiting what they have to say. Sloan, thank you for bringing that to light. The city of Augusta is one step closer to bringing back its mask mandate. This mandate would make masks required in all